1, 2. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. There we go. Hello, Martin, the first attendee. Dan? Welcome, Dan.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can, Dan, yes.
Oh, lovely.
I'm going to just move you to attendee for now and bring you in when necessary.
All right. Okay.
There we go.
I'm
There we go. Oh, see, we've got two Stuarts, a Martin and a Dan so far. Okay, we're just getting... Yes, I can see you, Stuart. I can see you. Okay. Just waiting for a few more people to turn up. It's very exciting. First webinar. Okay. Oh, big screen here. And yeah, so welcome. And I'm going to kick off in just a few minutes. More attendees. There we go. Got Peter Nagel there. There we go. Welcome. And more people turn up. Byron Vincent. Hi, Byron. Okay. Waiting for a few more. And then we'll get cracking on the world of filmmaking. Hurrah! Six. Okay. Got some Martin in chat. Hi, Jace. Dan, sexy pants. Yes, I've got sexy pants on. Stuart Green. Hello, Stuart. Hello, Stuart. Okay, I think we've got a few more people waiting to arrive. And then we'll do a little talk on the world of filmmaking. Okay. Yeah, this is Stuart. Your video is locked out for the moment because this is what's called a webinar. It's slightly different to a Zoom meeting. So it's just sharing my screen and the shared screen. And then later when we do Q&As, I'll bring people in individually or a few people for questions. Okay, so it's a slightly different format to your normal Zoom meeting. Okay. No, you've not buggered up your PC. Okay, so all these good in the world. Okay, right. So I'm just going to give it a couple more minutes because I know there's some more people who signed up that aren't here yet. So I'll just wait a moment or two. And of course, lots of time to any point during this webinar. There you go. Just raise your hands if you've got any questions. Okay, and I'll put you up on the screen or just unmute you, and then you can fire away because it's a loose kind of informal thing. Here's Rory. I'm going to make Rory just add him for now. Hi, Rory. I'm just going to add you to attendee there.
Me?
In later. Okay. Rory's a filmmaker who's joined us from Japan. Okay. And so got some international filmmakers here today. Very exciting. Right. Okay. Okay. So it's 3 o'clock. So if people joining late, well, they'll just miss a bit. They can always catch up. I'm recording it and we can stream it again later. So welcome to Anyone Can Make a Film. If I could do it, anyone could do it. Let's face it. So I'm just going to give a sort of brief kind of talk about filmmaking, how I got into filmmaking, how you can get into filmmaking, which is the important thing about this talk, and some tips and some advice, and I'll be answering questions. They could be technical questions, general questions, and I've done a little kind of PowerPoint, which is a first for me. Here we go. So I'm just going to share the screen. Here we go, share screen. And I'm going to share. Okay, I'm going to do a little share here. All right. So here we go. So here's our talk, and I've split it into a few categories that I'd like to talk about. And as I say, anytime you want to do a question, just click the Q&A or just raise your hand, and then I'll drag you in, okay, and I can do my best to answer them. All right. So number one, we've got first tip is this. There we go. First tip is this. Yes, number one is filmmaking. It should be fun. Okay. It should be enjoyable. It should be done because you love making films and you've got a story to tell, or you just love the experience of it, or you just want to make some cool visuals, or you want to put some, want to make a music video. Whatever your reason is, you're not going to get into this to make a fortune. If you want to do that, maybe you can go and be a kind of, uh, a stockbroker or something a little bit dull. But some people become like fantastically famous and rich through filmmaking. But that's probably not why they got into it. That probably just happened because they were really great at it and loved making films. Okay, so you got to do it for the love of it, really, and just not expect too much. If you make a short film, it's not going to make any money, let's face it, but it may be your ticket to making your next short film and your next short film after that, because the more you make, the more experience you get. Every time you do it, you get better at it. You find it easier to get people to kind of fund your films because they've seen your previous film. So here we go. So I'd just like to take you back to the very kind of late 1990s, 2000s. I'm going to do a little time travel, going back. And going back to when first kind of you could buy a reasonably cheap digital camera, digital video camera, little DV cams. You had tapes back then rather than memory cards, so you had to buy lots of tapes. And that really kind of opened up filmmaking to a lot more people. Okay, so that's when I sort of started. I'd always been fascinated by films. Okay, and I'd done little bits of editing and things. But when I got a camera, it was the first time I got the really opportunity to get some friends together and start just making like silly films. And so I'm just going to play one here that was pretty much it was kind of the second one we made. The first one was a really silly werewolf transformation. But here we go. This is called The Buzz. It was made probably about late 90s, early 2000s with a bunch of friends, a very cheap DV camera, and some dodgy special effects. Here we go. So let's go. So again, not a brilliant film, but it was really fun to make. And back then, that was the really early days of people just going out with DV cams making films. And I remember we put it on one of these. It was an early kind of Apple film site, and for like a couple of weeks, it was top of their kind of voted up videos that was on the site. So it played at some. I remember going into an exhibition at Earl's Court for film stuff, and it was on one of the screens. It was part of a Super Shorts Film Festival. I didn't even know it was on there, and then I saw it on the screen. So there you go. So it was just getting some friends. So the point of that is, if you want to make a film, you should just make a film and just really enjoy doing it. And welcome Tim. Tim's come along. Okay, so we did take some, back in the day where you kind of early kind of DVD extras. We thought, we'll film some of the process as well and make a little DVD extras. So going back to the idea that it's 2003 we made it, that it should be fun. You can just see like some of the fun we had making it. Here we go. Lovely. Great. Yeah. Fantastic.
Any what?
Go on, just really throw your head back as you do it. Oh yeah. Yeah, brilliant. Whenever. That was a bit clumsy, mate. Whenever. And in your own time, mate.
Clumsy again.
Clumsy again. That's the one. That's it. Yeah.
Requisite jerk. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, too much.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Too late. Action. All clear from Yatesy. 1, 2, 3. Ready in reverse and action. That's better. There we go. So yeah, you can see that it was just a bunch of mates having a laugh, really, and we were trying to use all the kind of Hollywood cheat tricks, like using wires, a bit of fishing line tied to a Pop-Tart, and doing reverse shots and all that kind of stuff. That you don't need a big budget or anything to do that. You just need to kind of use a bit of imagination and have some fun with it. So that's the first part. That's the main thing. It's, if you want to make a film, if you want to make a short film, whatever you want to do, you should enjoy it. It should be a fun process. Every short film or music video that I've worked on, it's been enjoyable. It's been good atmosphere on set. We've had lots to do. There's been lots of running about. Things can go wrong and stuff, but it's always been fun. It's always been fun. So that's a good thing. Okay, so that's little point number one. Does anybody got any questions? Because there we go. If you do, you can raise your hand, and I'll put you on the. I'll unmute you. Okay. Any questions there? Don't see any hands up. Okay. Everybody can hear it. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So let's just let's go into here. So number 2. Just want to go into my chat. Okay, that's all good. Just checking the chat. All right. So number 2 is okay. No excuses. Okay. There's I've taught quite a lot, done courses where I've taught at Rain Dance, which is film festival and film school. Rory, who's in now, used to work there, used to run the courses. And I often say, which at the start of the course, which always seems a bit contradictory, a bit like the TV show Why Don't You? It was a TV show telling you not to watch TV in the theme tune. But I'd always say to people, maybe you should do less courses and just go and make some films. Because I meet a lot of people who say, "Oh, I've got this idea for film. I've been thinking of doing it for like 10 years now, and I just haven't done it because I want this camera, or I think I need this actor, or I haven't quite got the ending, not quite right, or I've got a synopsis, but I've not got a script." And you get this list of reasons why people have spent years like doing courses on filmmaking, but not actually making the film they want to make. And really, if you want to make something, the best thing, and if you want to learn about filmmaking, which is what we were basically doing there with the buzz, we were just like learning about filmmaking by trying to film a car crash or film a Pop Tart flying out of a toaster, things like that. There's no better way to do it than to just have a go. Okay. And if you make a bad film, that's okay because you can learn from your bad filmmaking experience. Maybe your next film will be a better film, okay? Or you can remake the film that as a better film. You can, on a bigger budget, but now you've got some filmmaking experience behind you. Lots of people started off in the filmmaking business making home movies. A lot of the big directors did that. If you think of something like Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, Evil Dead 2 is basically a remake of Evil Dead 2. And Sam Raimi always said that the second one is basically the film he would have liked to have made if he'd have had enough money for the first one. But that never stopped him making the first one. And if he'd never made the first one and it hadn't been such a huge success, he'd never have been able to kind of finance his bigger, more extravagant, elaborate second one. Okay, so don't find a reason why. Never find a reason why you can't do it, because it's usually just a reason that exists in your head. And the thing about filmmaking is, going back to point one, it is fun, and so you usually find there's no shortage of people who want to take part. It's you don't necessarily if you're using professionals, it's always great to be able to pay them, and you could set up crowdfunding and things like that. But if you're just starting out and you find other people who are starting out too, then it's like, so if you want to find somebody who wants to operate the camera or do the sound or try out some makeup or be an actor, or all this kind of thing, people want to do this. People do want to do this. So you'll find no shortage of willing participants. Hello, we've got David joined us. So yeah, so there's no real excuse for not having a go. Definitely. So that's what I did. We started making silly films with friends, and found the process to be really enjoyable. And with every time we did some new film, you kind of learn a bit. You learn a bit, far more than reading a book or doing a course, which is great. But the experience of doing it is where it's at. Okay, so yeah. So the message is that don't invent reasons why you can't go and make your film. Okay, so leading on from that is my point number 3. Okay, you've got the gear. Back in the day, 80s, whatever, early 90s, it was more difficult to get your film made. You needed to get more financing, even a low budget film, because the equipment wasn't as readily available as it is now. If you wanted to shoot something on film, you had to have film cameras, you had to buy film stock, which, people used to use offcuts from film stock from other films, bits that were left at the end of the reels, which is why a lot of low budget films sometimes have shifts in color, because they use different film stock that was left on the cutting room floor and filmed on that, that was left at the end of reels, offcuts, and there'd be different types of film and they'd have different colors. And so you get these films that kind of, didn't really match color-wise, because they were just using lots of various film stocks, things like that. But you know, so you had to find a lot more investment to get your film made, because you not only had to get film stock or the cameras that could run that film stock, or people to operate the cameras because they were bigger and more complicated, and they needed more lights, so you had to have more people doing lights and all this, and then you had to get it developed, and then because it was all on film and not on a computer, you had to get somebody on a big machine with razors and things like that to cut your entire film together. So it was a much more elaborate process. Now you just need something like this. You know, here I've got a let me just make myself big screen here. All right. Okay. I've got a DSLR. I've got another one here. Got another one here. I've got a light here. Where's the light? Bouncing off the ceiling to give me a nice kind of diffuse light in the room. Okay. So this is a fairly cheap DSLR camera. I think this one costs about 400 quid. This one more expensive that I use, that's about 3,000 quid, but that's like a 4K camera that I can use, you know, for more professional stuff. But most of the films that I've shot that got a YouTube or indeed played in cinemas, you know, we've had films play at the Whitechapel Cinema, Genesis Cinema, Raindance Film Festival, at Cannes, all this kind of stuff. I've mostly been shot on a small DSLR camera like this, which was about 400 quid. Okay, and so DSLRs are great. They've really kind of revolutionized filmmaking in like the last 10 years or so, because one of the great things about them is, okay, unlike a kind of handy camera, like you sort of video camera that you take on holiday or something, or your smartphone, is you can change lenses, okay, and lenses can give you a lot of different looks, okay. So you can go for wide angle lenses, telephoto lenses. When you know, if you look at more technical stuff, I've got some stuff on my website that goes into more detail about technical things, because I don't want to get too technical today, about, you know, how you can get things like shallower depth of field, so the background's more blurry. All this kind of stuff you can achieve with a fairly, you know, reasonably priced camera. If you don't want to buy one yourself, I'm sure you can borrow one off a friend or rent one. You can rent them really cheaply. Okay, so getting the gear is not that hard. Really, you're going to want a camera. Okay, you probably want, if you can get like access to like a nice lens like this is, that's great. You're going to want to think about the sound. We'll come on to sound later, but you can see I've got a microphone attached to this, which is much better than the microphone built into the camera. Okay, so some sort of microphone. Again, not expensive. This is about, I think these are about £70, these kind of top mics. They're pretty good sound. I've got some lighting behind. We'll talk about more lights when we do some Q&As. But again, LED lights, not expensive on stands. So if you're filming indoors, you're probably going to need some extra lighting. Okay. Outdoors, not so much, unless you're filming at night, things like that. But the ability to get the equipment you need to actually make your short film is now within pretty much the grasp of most people. Either to buy it themselves, splash out a little bit on a bit of equipment, or borrow it, you know, or or just find somebody who already has it, who'll shoot it for you or record the sound for you. There's lots of places out there where you can hook up with people who, you know, like Rain Dance networking meetings and stuff like that. You put a shout out, say, I've got an idea for a film, looking for somebody to shoot it. You'll probably get somebody involved. Okay, so I'm just going to bring Rory in just for a moment. Rory, let's to talk about this. Okay, here comes Rory. If you want to unmute yourself, sir.
So I'm unable to start video, it says.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Maybe you don't want me on video.
I do. But yeah, I don't know why. let's have a look. Let me see.
Shall I just vamp while you're?
Yeah. No, I don't know. It must be your end. There's nothing I can do.
Quite easily. But I will wait for your questions. It's 11:30 at night here in Tokyo, so
Yeah.
I'm enjoying a drink. It's
Lovely.
mid-afternoon there, so you forget that I've got a nice shochu on ice here. So.
Yeah. So I just wanted to ask you about finding people to help out on your films.
Okay.
Because I know you've got experience of doing that and through Rain Dance, and you've hosted networking events.
Before that, one thing that's important, when I've made my first, what I call my first real film in 1999, there was one before that. But what you will find, there are a lot of very good technicians, very good camera people, very good sound people, who work in jobs which are not necessarily artistically fulfilling. And I was actually just talking about this with one of my students here in Tokyo today, who works in commercials. And I was saying, okay, they work for a commercial company. And I said, well, that's a great place to be working. Because commercials, it's good money. But, you know, all of your technicians, all of your editors, your crew, they're all taking home very nice paychecks for making commercials. But they probably don't find it very artistically fulfilling. So you come along, you know, whether you're an office junior or a director or whatever your position in the company, and you have a little narrative short film to make, an exciting idea, interesting visuals, so a good story, good characters. And you've got all these people sitting around and you go to them, I want to make a little short film. And what I actually did with my first real short, I had been introduced to a cameraman. He'd been a cameraman on TV for 20 years. And his main thing was filming sport. So his day job at the time was operating the camera to film golf. Now, I don't have a visual. I normally do a visual at this point, but I don't know. But you can all imagine panning a camera as someone tees off and following a golf ball in an arc through the air until it bounces down on the green. And that was his entire job, day in, day out, after years of experience and years of training. So when I came to him and said, I'm shooting a little narrative horror film out in the Outer Hebrides, would you possibly be interested? He jumped on it. Of course, he'd love to. Did it for free, bought his equipment, got a sound man involved, and we all humped our equipment up to the islands and shot a 25-minute horror film with Sylvester McCoy and some music. So there you go. That was interesting. So people who, you can get good people like that simply by offering them something they haven't done before. And then, you know, people may say, okay, you've got Sylvester McCoy, a well-known actor, you know, in Doctor Who 10 years earlier. How did you get him? I had worked with someone who had worked with him. I asked them if they might get in the script. He got it. And again, the script was not the sort of thing he was normally offered. He was seen at the time, probably is now still, as a comic knockabout actor. And I offered him this dour Scotsman whose wife had just died. And it gave him as an actor an opportunity to do something dramatic, different from what he'd done before. Obviously, I had a way of getting the script to him. Obviously, I knew this camera person, and that's the jump, if you like, is knowing these people. But once you know them, you give them something unique, something new, some variety in their life. And so long as there's decent money coming in from somewhere else, they'll give you a few days of their time, especially if you're starting out. But it all really boils down, and all of them, whether it's the cameraman, whether it's the lead actor, whoever you're approaching, it boils down to the script. It boils down to them reading that thinking, yeah, I can do something with this. This looks interesting. This looks fun. This is something I haven't done before. And yeah, so I'm afraid I am someone who thinks, and what in terms of procrastination, your first point, the thing that always stops me getting films started is I'm a bit too much of a perfectionist on the script. Wanted to make sure the script is right, and I can keep putting off and putting off and putting off. I think it's not good enough to show people. But when you're starting off, the important thing is to get something done. You just talked about DSLR cameras, but obviously everyone watching or listening now has a camera which is better than anything I shot with in 1999.
Yeah.
And it's in their pocket on their phone.
Yeah, I just had a question from Stuart Gray. This is obviously a DSLR. It's going to give more professional outputs, but the basics on a mobile phone. And yeah, it's true. You can shoot really great stuff on a mobile phone.
They have these things now where these phones with ridiculous zooms and 5 lenses and all that stuff. But even mine, I just got a basic Samsung Android here. And yes, you can make films that can be shown in cinemas. Certainly, you can make films that can be shown on YouTube.
A couple of years ago, there was a film called Unsound, which was entirely shot on a mobile phone, except the sound, but the pictures were, and it was shown in cinemas.
Well, yeah, there's a film called Tangerine, which won awards.
Yeah, that's right.
Distribution shot on an iPhone. So
and in ways, and it depends on the type of film you're making as well. If it's some kind of guerrilla film, if you need to do crowds, you need to get into small spaces and stuff like that, or get into events or documentaries where you need footage of things that are happening. A mobile phone can be really useful because it's just there and it's not going to draw attention. If you turn up in Trafalgar Square, you want to shoot somebody, do some dialogue, and you turn up with a massive camera and a film crew, they'll kick you off immediately. If you're just filming somebody on a mobody phone, nobody will blink an eyelid.
So, absolutely. We were even the DSLR, because the great thing about the DSLR is that it looks like a stills camera.
Yeah.
Now, what attracts onlookers, what attracts the authorities, what attracts anyone who's going to get in your way is a tripod or a boom mic.
Yeah.
If you can avoid those two things, you can really shoot on the street. So I shot a film out in Tokyo. We were out on the street, and I wanted to shoot. In fact, Jason edited it, so he knows exactly what film I'm talking about. And we had to shoot. We shot lots of landmarks around Tokyo, all the sort of things that you pay a lot of money for permits. Just outside Tokyo Tower, the Sensoji Temple, Hachiko, right in the middle of Shibuya Crossing. If people know Shibuya Scramble, right in the center of Tokyo, we shot all of that. Because we had no sound, we were going to add music on this section, so we didn't need to record any dialogue. We didn't need to record any sound. We just had the DSLR camera, which just looks like a little stills camera. We looked like tourists taking photos of our actor and actress at all these landmarks. And we got lovely footage, which worked very well. Now, if you need sound, it's got to be recorded on location. And to be honest, in those locations, it'd be pretty nightmarish anyway, because of the amount of other sound that's going on. So you're probably better off adding the dialogue later.
Dubbing it in, yeah.
I'm not a big fan of radio mics, but you can radio mic up. But if you're close up enough, you could get the camera mic. But really, you just need to get some ambient sound of the area, and then record the dialogue later and add it on. I would. That's the way I do it. But you can get out and about with the little DSLR cameras, and no one's going to stop you. Get at the top. I had a very experienced cinematographer we both know, Soran.
Yes.
Who took a DSLR camera up the Eiffel Tower in a tourist party, and they shot footage from the top of the Eiffel Tower. The amount of money you have to pay the Parisian authorities to do that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But you grab it with a DSLR camera, looking like a tourist, no problem.
Absolutely. Right. So, yes. So indeed, Dan's pointed out that Steven Soderbergh made the feature film High Flying Birds on an iPhone 8 Plus as well. So much about filmmaking.
Right format for the story. I think that's the only.
It's so much is about having a good idea and a good story. People think you've got to have immense technical experience of cameras or all this equipment and stuff, but it's really, if you've got a good idea and a good story, no matter what you shoot it on, that as long as you can tell that story in an engaging way, that's more important than having big budgets, big cameras.
I'm well aware I do lots of hand gestures and things when I'm talking, but you can't make me a video up there, can you? That's all right.
That's all right. I think I've just changed the settings, so hopefully when you come back, you should be able to see you next time. But
right.
yeah, I'm going to put you back as an attendee and then come back to you later for some Q&As and everybody. All right. So chat later, Rory.
Okay.
Cal, all right. Okay. So yeah, as Rory said, you know, people do like if you ask people if you've got a good idea and a good story, then often people will want to do it, you know, because a lot of people work on stuff that's, you know, maybe, you know, their day-to-day job in the world of film and video is doing corporate videos or commercial stuff, and they just, you know, that's not really why most people get into it. It's usually because they want to do things that involve storytelling and things. Okay. Will you be talking about kit for edit? Yes, David, I will. So yeah. So coming back to that, that's kind of my next point. Let me go back to my little screen here. You've got the gear. So yeah, so we talked about cameras and accessibility to cameras and how, as you know, we've all got phones, we've got access to DSLRs, we've got the equipment we need to tell stories. And now, as well as having the equipment to shoot, to capture the video, we've also got at our fingertips the ways to edit it. Okay. So David said, lots of videos are quiet and other music videos. So he's moving up from iMovie to Logic Pro, Final Cut Pro. Okay. So yeah. So the software that you need, I don't want to get into specifics of any software, but most computers, you know, within last 10 years really, are powerful enough to run a decent editing package. Okay. And if you've got a Mac, they've got iMovie, which is free, but limited in terms of how many tracks of video and audio you can get. But still, if you just want to cut something simple together, that's fine. You can just do a lot with a couple of tracks of video and audio, and it's very good gateway to kind of learn the basics of editing and then get a more sophisticated editing package like Final Cut Pro or also Premiere Pro, which is great, and things like that. Then again, there's a lot of free packages you can get that you can download and try out and cut videos together. Again, most of the free packages are great. Some have limitations in terms of the amount of tracks you can do or effects or you know, transitions, all that kind of stuff. But then if you want to advance and to something like Final Cut Pro or Premiere, then that's usually most computers will run those. If you accept Apple just runs Final Cut Pro, but Premiere will run on a PC or a Mac, and that's the one I use, and it's brilliant. Okay, and I can run it on my laptop, and my laptop's got what has it got? I think it's got about 2 gigabytes of RAM. It's not massive, but it runs Premiere fine. David is asking about a choir video, and so he says he's got 4 gigabytes of RAM. Don't want to get too technical, but if you're putting lots of videos together at once, like with a choir video, you might have like 16 videos, 20 videos, 50 videos on the screen at once. That could often slow you down because the computer's trying to play back loads of videos at the same time. So you might need more RAM. But if you're just making a film, in which case you're just cutting from clip to clip to clip to clip, you know, without not making big screen montages or any kind of special effects, then pretty much any computer can run it. So if you've got a computer and if you've got access to a good phone, a DSLR camera, or a good quality like a Sony, you know, it's sort of handy cam, you know, but one of the kind of more professional ones, not the kind of little cheapy ones that you used to get. People don't really use those anymore. Then you've got the ability there to go out and just make something. Just take your idea. It's all about ideas. Okay, if you've got a good idea, then you can find a way to capture it. You really can. let me just show you this. So again, going back to kind of it being fun, and here's my little playlist here. Right, playlist. Okay, so right, here we go. So I'm just going to share a different screen. So now you will actually get to see Rory, who was just talking, because he's the chap in this film. And it's only a 14-second film. Okay. And the point of this is that we were sat in a cafe. We were talking about the fact that Rain Dance were doing a 14-second horror film challenge for Halloween. I just walked a different way to the cafe for the first time and past this graveyard. I thought, oh, that's a great graveyard. So I mentioned that to Rory in the cafe. Rory said, I've got this, where is it? There it is. Okay. Okay. Rory said, I've still got this prop knocking about at home, this claw. We could do something with that. And so we kind of said, all right, I'll go get my camera. You go get your claw. We'll meet back at the graveyard in an hour. And about 4 hours later, we got this film on YouTube. We'd filmed it. I'd edited it. It's only 14 seconds long. And it was shown, as part of the Rain Dance thing. So there you go. 14 seconds. Lovely. There we are. Okay. So yeah, had some editing software, had a camera, just go and make something, just go and do it. Okay. So yes, and again, David, don't get too technical, but if you ever want to email me any specific questions about editing software and that kind of stuff, you're more than welcome to do so. Because I teach courses in editing and stuff, so I'm always happy to answer questions. Okay, you should have my email, but if not, I'll put it at the end in the chat. Okay, so you've got the gear. So talking about gear, and okay, one thing that's very important when you're thinking of making your film is that a mistake a lot of people make when they're putting together a short film is they kind of forget about the sound. Okay. They'll concentrate on visuals, but not so much about the sound. Okay. And really the sound is half the story. It's sound and vision, as Bowie sang. That's what's going to tell your story. Your script, your dialogue, it's all sound. And so many times, a short film kind of, is made to look amateur, or specifically sound amateur, by the fact that they've paid so much attention to getting these shots, but have only recorded sound on the camera's mic, or just not paid attention to it, or a friend of mine had this short film. It was great, but the editor said, "Oh, I only do edit visuals. I don't do a sound mix." And he put this short film up, and I said, "Can you send it to me and I'll fix the sound?" Because there were bits where it just went to silence. There was no background sounds. So where it cut, it just went to silence and then went to a shot with sound, and it just sounded so weird. So I put ticking clocks and things in the background of the shot so that it never just went. So there's some ambience in the shot all the time. So much of what you see on film, when you see the picture and you hear the sound, a lot of that sound wasn't there when it was filmed. A lot of it is done in post-production, because it's quite, you'll hear a door opening, and on a film you'll very specifically hear a big creaky door handle. Okay, but on the set there was probably lots of noise going on, and it wasn't that good a creak. All this kind of stuff will be added in. and it can be quite. There we go. I'm just going to show you a great example. Here we go of what's called Foley, and it's again something you can have a lot of fun with. Right. All right. I found this on YouTube. It's like the most extreme kind of Foley I've ever seen. These guys are just kind of stunt sound guys. It's brilliant. You'll like this. Okay. So here we go. Right. There you go. So a bit of heroic sound effects there, you got to say. And yeah, so when you do your filming, you've got to think about how you're going to tell the story visually, but also how you're going to tell the story audibly. And a lot of that you can think you've got to, if you've got dialogue, you've got to make sure you're capturing the dialogue. So you need somebody to do the sounds, usually on a boom pole, or you know, obviously you can do radio mics now as well, but you've got to keep them hidden unless you do a documentary. Okay, in which case it's kind of fine. But it's really important to think of when you're visually storytelling, you're audibly storytelling too. And there's so many sounds that we kind of hear in film, you know, that become like iconic. Some of this, you think about like a TIE fighter, which is kind of an elephant reversed, or how the laser guns firing, which was somebody banging electrical wire, big massive electrical cable with like a spanner, and all this kind of stuff. It's actually kind of fun putting the sound effects together. So on the one I showed you at the start, the buzz, when he splashes his water on the face, that's a sound effect of somebody, I think, diving into a swimming pool, because it made all the sounds bigger. Okay, and it told the story more. So it's definitely something that's always, if you want to make a good film, if you want to make something that really tells your story, you're not just telling your story through the pictures, you're telling your story through the sound as well. You're using sound to create atmosphere, using sound to highlight a telephone ring or a creaky door or somebody creeping on floorboards or a fight sequence like you saw there. There's so much behind the scenes, you know, that goes into making a film sound as good as it looks. Okay, so always, I that's something I always tell people is really think about sound as much as you think about the picture, because storytelling is both visual and audible. Okay, so so on most of the films I've made, I've got a good friend called Tomo. He's become my like regular sound person, and so it's always nice to have that relationship with somebody you work with. He's done he's done a lot of stuff for free for me. He often writes to me and says, "Hey Jace, anything coming up? I'm a bit bored. Have you got any films that I can take part in?" Because he loves doing what he does. So again, there are people who will just want to do it for the love of doing it, which is a good thing, which is a lovely thing. Okay, so yes, so back to the old keynote there. Okay, sound and vision. All right, so in thinking about putting a film together, okay, little quote from Magnum Force: "Every man's got to know his limitations." All right, so this isn't say don't make a film, but this is knowing your limitations of what you can make will actually help you make your film. So when Rory and I did a film called The Landlady, which is like a 30-minute 4-part film, stars Caroline Munro, so it had a well-known actress in it, okay, which we were able to get crowdfunded and stuff like that. Kind of our first meeting in the pub when we talked about putting a film together was we said, okay, well, what kind of budget might we get? Which nothing really. So where could we actually set this story? What story could we write that we know we could get made? If it's set on a space station off the moons of Jupiter, we're going to run into kind of technical issues there. You know, we're going to need massive special effects, you know, budgets and stuff. But if we kind of say, let's say we make it in a flat, it's all about a landlady of a flat. We can get a flat, we can get a room in a flat, we'll be able to do that. And so when we said that, then that was the kind of thing, okay, how do we work our story around the kind of limitations of what we can get? So if you've got a lot of times when you're trying to make a film, one of the real struggles is to get a location, is to get somewhere where you can film that's, you know, not your backyard or your kitchen. You get an interesting location. So if you've got somewhere that's available, if you know a place where you can film, or you've got an interesting location, or even, you know, just set your story in a very mundane place like a room in a flat, then you can actually, there's nothing really stopping you getting your film off the ground in terms of where you shoot it. So always think about, don't put unrealistic settings, locations, or special effects, or car chases, or all this kind of stuff that you're going to need to, you know, stop traffic for, and all this kind of stuff. Find a way to tell your story in a way that won't involve significant parts of a city shutting down, or a team of 100 people doing visual effects, and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, so know your limitations, as old Dirty Harry would say. Okay, so that's that. And then, okay, there are no rules, just guidelines. So if you want to make a film, okay, it's good to know a bit about filmmaking. I've always been fascinated by the subject ever since I was a little kid. I used to read behind the scenes books and stuff like that. And there were certain things you could learn about filmmaking, about storytelling, not overly technical things. You don't have to be an expert on like cameras and all this kind of stuff. But there's little rules, like, for example, something called crossing the line, which is the way you kind of put the camera so that if two people are talking to each other and you're cutting backwards and forwards between them, they actually look like they're talking to each other and the heads aren't facing in the wrong direction. Okay. And really simple trick to learn. You can look it up on YouTube videos. Like, will explain things like crossing the line, just so you put basically your cameras in the right place, and imagine a line between two people and put your cameras on one side of them. Is the most basic kind of explanation of it. And once you learn the rules, once you learn kind of how to do things right, then you don't have to stick to them, but you can always break them for a good reason. So if you're just breaking them because you don't know them, your film might look a bit weird, and, you know, people, that's a weird cut. That doesn't look right. But you might be doing it if you know what you're doing. So you've read up a bit about filmmaking, you've watched a few videos, you can do it. So you might cross the line and have people like looking in strange ways because it might be some sort of dreamlike sequence or fantasy. So so it's meant to look a bit disconcerting and a bit strange. And so you've done it for a reason, and the reason is that it always kind of helps convey your story. So when you break rules, you're usually doing it in service of the film and the story that you're trying to tell. So it's a fascinating subject. I kind of, you know, you never stop learning new things. You know, so going back to here, me and Dan made a little. There we go. Sorry. I'll just show you this. So Dan and I will bring in later a little chat. We did a very similar little video on the subject of crossing the line, which is when it looks like people aren't always talking in the right place and facing the right person. Okay, so let's just go and do a share. So Dan and I did a little series of videos for Rain Dance on like film tips. So this, I was talking about crossing the line, so I thought I'd just show you this. This was our kind of Dirty Harry tribute.
You wanted to see me, Chief?
Yes, I did, Callahan. You know what you've done?
I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5?
That's not what I'm thinking, Callahan. Where are you looking?
Well, to tell the truth, in all this excitement, I kind of lost track myself.
I'm over here!
Here,
Here!
you looking at me, punk?
That's it, Callahan.
Chief?
You've crossed the line. You've crossed the line for the last time.
Welcome to Rain Dance Top Traps. Number 1, crossing the line. We cross the line so you don't have to. We place the camera here and here. The eye line of the characters was here to here. Therefore, the cameras cross the line. Either have the cameras one side of the eye line or the other side of the eye line. Thank you.
Okay. So that was a little silly video we did on the subject of crossing the line. So there's lots of little tips like that that you can learn about things like how to set up shots. There's things like rules of thirds to make, where you place things in the shot. So people aren't looking straight down the camera lens, for example. How you set up shots to make them look interesting and correct in terms of where people are talking to each other. So that was, so if you've got 2 characters in conversation, you don't want both looking that way and that way, because it looks like they're both talking to some third person that you never see. You want sort of one person on one side of the screen looking that way, then when it cuts to the other person, they're on this side of the screen kind of looking that way, and then it looks like they're having, when it cuts between 2 cameras, a 2-way conversation. It looks natural when it cuts between them. So yeah, but you don't have to do that. I say it's not a rule, but it's good to know that most people do that, and that's a general kind of guideline, because if you choose to break it, then you could be choosing to break it for some kind of specific reason. So again, everything should help tell your story. Okay. So yeah, so there was no rules. You can do crazy camera moves. You can do what the hell you like. But if you're just doing it because I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do a Dutch tilt. So I'm going to turn my camera kind of on its side. That's great and weird, but you're doing it in the middle of some family drama scene, and there's actually no reason for doing that. If you're doing it in some sort of horror film, crazy kind of dream sequence, then the world's all off kilter. Oh yeah, I've done that with my camera. Then it makes sense. So I'm going to do them for the right reasons. And usually the right reasons is it helps get across your story. Okay. So finally, on my little points here is just do it. Just do it. As I said, all the previous points I've mentioned. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Got old there he is, Sheila Buff there. Is you should just get out and have some fun with it. Even if you just take out your phone and get some friends, write a story for Halloween, write a ghost story, something like that. And just take out your camera and think about some cool shots, some great ways to kind of make it scary, to create some atmosphere, some kind of sound effects you can put on. There's loads of free sound effects online. There's all the BBC sound effects from years. You can go to the BBC website and download them. There's a massive library of free stuff you can download. You know, spooky winds, atmospheres, horses clip clopping, footsteps on gravel. There's a massive library out there you can get. So you can create, you know, you can film great visuals, you can add in great sound, and you can do all this, and it's all accessible to you now in a way that it never really was before. Now, you know, and especially now a lot of people are stuck at home and bored, and now is a great time to sit down and start thinking, oh, who've I got? What people have I got available? Where can I go and film? What kind of story could I tell? You know, who can I get together? Well, you know, let's give it a go. Might be terrible. Might only have 10 views on YouTube from 10 members of my family, but I've gone out and made something and enjoyed the experience of making it. So you know, it's really good fun to enjoy that. So yeah, so the first hour of sort of my talk was basically, you know, I just wanted to go through these points to just my sort of philosophy on you should really enjoy it. You should really get out there and do it and love doing it and do it for the sake of doing it. Don't think you're going to make you famous or a star, but you will get a lot out of the process, and you probably do it with people you know, who you've got involved and friends. And it, you know, all being well, it should be a great time, a great experience for everybody. And you can say, hey, look at me. I made a film. It's terrible, but I made a film. Or it's brilliant, and it's my calling card to Hollywood, you know. And so, yeah. So that's what I say. Just do it, man. Okay. So I'm going to bring in now the chap you saw. I'm going to bring in Dan here. I'm going to make him a panelist. Now, hopefully, you should be able to see Dan now. If he turns on his camera and video.
Jace, it's not letting me turn on the camera.
Oh, dear.
Because the host has stopped it.
Oh, no.
The host has stopped it.
Oh, dear.
You're not giving me the permission.
Let's see. If I make you host?
Now I'm host. Let's see what happens.
Yes, we can do it.
Hello.
Hey there.
I'm wearing my cricket top because the cricket season's finished, but I'm still dreaming of playing. Hello, everyone. Hello.
Hey.
Great. This is great, Jace. Really, really good. I think if it can motivate some people to go out there and make stuff, then that's absolutely fantastic.
Well, yeah, because what I want to talk to you about is like with that ethos of just making stuff. And recently we had the challenge of having to stay indoors pretty much all the time.
Yep.
So you ran with that gauntlet and made the Henry films.
I did. Well, I mean, with a bit of pushing from you as well, and a huge amount of help from you, Jace. What started was basically the first Friday of lockdown. I was doing the hoovering, and it was supposed to be the cricket season, and I couldn't play cricket. Which you might tell I like it. So I did the hoovering in my cricket whites, and my housemate took a photo, put it on Facebook, and it got lots and lots of likes. And people said, "What are you wearing next week for hoovering?" And I had a weird costume from a comedy sketch, some lederhosen. I wore that, and then I just did a little video clip of me in a tuxedo, just being Bond. The name's Hoover, Henry Hoover. Just filmed that, and then it grew. Each week, people wanted more, and people asked for more, and then I sort of put together little clips and said, "Jace, what can you do something with this?" So I did a Clockwork Orange spoof, and then they grew into a big Harry Potter spoof in which I played like half a dozen Harry Potter characters. I actually bought in and ordered off the web some cheap lights, so some soft focus, or ESDDI. They cost like 40 quid for 2 lights. I bought a green screen for about 20 quid and a frame for it. And so it sort of got in some basic kit, but just using my phone to film. And with the joys of green screen, we then made a couple of Star Wars ones, which had a few thousand views on Facebook.
Oh yeah, I can find one. Let me go.
Right.
Let me find it.
The pun is basically lots of puns around hoovering and
Yes.
being in lockdown. So, which is kind of the joke, the running theme, the running joke through the.
Okay. So I'll find this. Here we go. I found the Star Wars one.
All right. Here we go. Lots of magic from Jace thrown in.
The Empire Sucks Back. That's a good one.
Yeah.
What's up?
The Star Wars one is the first one. Is well, they're both fun.
Just a sec. Right. I'm going to. Here we go. So let me do a share.
Star Wars. If you got Star Wars, or you.
Empire Sucks Back or Star Wars?
I think Star Wars is.
Let's have a look. Where's Star Wars? Videos. It's not on your website. It's not on your channel.
It should be there, unless.
There we are. There's all your videos.
Mm-hmm. I haven't taken it off. So
I don't see it.
It's definitely there. It's that's not all of them. So playlist. I don't know. Oh, there it is. You see?
All right.
Are my only hope.
Good cheesy pun at the end there.
Cheesy pun. That was your cheesy pun, and I think you should get credit for that. So yeah, just absolute ridiculous, and what Jason was saying about sort of knowing your limitations. I just
that was all shot on a green screen in your bedroom.
Green screen in bedroom with a phone.
With a phone.
And Jace's.
And the green screen was just on eBay. What are they, about 20, 30 quid?
Yeah, 20 or 30 quid. And, it's a huge green sheet. And even though it's got a bit creased, Jace manages to iron out the wrinkles on his.
I keep telling him all the time, I said, Dan, you've not ironed your green screen. It makes it harder for me.
Gotta iron it.
Should be, yeah.
Just lots of nozzle. That was basically, I just printed off a picture of a stormtrooper's face. I just stuck on my face, and somehow it made. There was no trickery on that voice. That's just the voice with that behind the sheet of paper. Actually, I had a prop moustache that I stuck to my chin as Obi-Wan with just a bed sheet around me. stuck some nozzles to a black jumper to look like Darth Vader. So you can make these things. You've got stuff at home that you can cobble together, and the joy of filming is it can look actually all right.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of those videos are, they're obviously comedy videos, and the lo-fi-ness of your costumes and effects, and your tinfoil C3PO.
Yes,
This was just tinfoil, and I just used an effect to change the color to make it go.
The hottest couple of hours of my life.
Yes, back to tinfoil. Yeah, and obviously there's a bunch of those on YouTube now.
We did it for about 3 months, didn't we?
We did. We kept them going every Friday. They kept growing and getting, all different
monsters,
different parodies, and it was great fun to do.
Yeah, it kept us going, didn't it? It kept us going.
Yeah.
Like, what have you got for me this week? I go, Jason, I'm sending you a whole bunch of clips. I hope they make sense. You go, oh no. But they sort of, you managed to make a story out of them, and I had an idea. What you say about sort of sound and vision, you have a story in your head and an image of how they all link together, and you try to think of the language of film. I think watching films is a great learning process as well. Watch your favorite film back a couple of times and just think, where did they cut? Where did they edit? What did they cut to?
I tell you, I learned a lot about filmmaking from, don't have DVDs so much anymore because a lot of stuff's on streaming. But I remember getting a DVD player and realizing that they got all these extras, and listening back to like the commentaries. Of the director's cut. So many like tips in there. So when we did the Buzz and we were filming the car accident, the film I showed at the start, which was got Ian sort of jumping off the car, then running backwards, and Chris in the background, walking backwards to add a bit of extra to it. So there's a passerby. So he's also walking backwards, and Matt, who was in the car, reversing backwards, and then we reverse the shot so it looks like, because obviously we can't drive into Ian.
No,
we could do a shot with Matt reversing quickly and Ian kind of leaping back off the hood.
Yeah. Really clever.
And what gave me the idea for that was the commentary for Evil Dead 2, where Sam Raimi was talking about doing a lot of the effect shots were done by filming Bruce Campbell doing all these reverse shots, and he said he thinks Bruce Campbell's the best reverse actor in Hollywood. Because he'd act things backwards, then he'd play them forwards. Because if you're going to headbutt a wall, then it's probably been filmed backwards.
Yeah,
you start with the wall in somebody's hand, and then they pull it backwards quickly, because it's much safer than actually pushing it in quickly.
Yes, God, yeah.
And you reverse the film, and it looks the same. And there's
hang on, didn't I?
I think you just had a director that didn't like it, But there's so many little tricks you can learn by watching films and listening to how other people did things.
But also just make mistakes. Because you will make mistakes and you learn from them. The first film I made a film when I was like 15. It was about 50 minutes long, which will never see the light of day. But I made another film about 15 years ago, and just by making that and looking at the mistakes I made in it now means that the learning curve is really sharp in making films. I think really quick. That the more you can make like 2 or 3 short films, and you'll learn a huge amount.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no better way to learn than just to do it, and like when you're doing the editing process, you suddenly think, I wish I'd have got like a close up of that hand picking up that phone or something like that.
Yeah.
And suddenly you kind of then you start to learn the importance of things like close up shots, and that tell all these little things that add detail to your stories.
Well, I remember you saying with the Harry Potter one, I think you said, I need a full shot of Henry for the green screen. I can't just have a partial, because it was really hard to get a full shot of the full nozzle and cords and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get him all in shot, and you went, I do need him all in shot so I can just do the green screen of him levitating, and so having to sort of go back and reshoot little bits for you so that what you needed as an editor to put it together and create the story. So that teamwork as well, I think that's the beauty of making film, is creating that team and people you want to work with time and time again.
Yeah, it's always a nice collaborative experience,
Yeah.
and everyone you get involved, you know, brings their own sort of expertise and passion for doing what they do, you know, to the film,
The joy
be
of
it
it.
makeup or costume
Yeah.
or set design or whatever they're doing. They you know, they're usually doing that because they love it.
And they'll bring their ideas, and it's such a collaborative process. They'll
Yeah.
bring, well, have you thought about doing that? You go, oh no, I haven't thought of that. That's why having, you know, a great cameraman, a great editor, a great
Yeah. Well, great example of that. Let me just go back to the landlady. I always love this shot, and this was here we go. So just that there it is. Let me just found it. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm just going to share screen. So I'll just give you some background to this. So it's a shot, and very simple thing. The shot involves the landlady Caroline Munro. You may remember from James Bond and Hammer films and stuff like that. Lovely lady, and very important part of the plot of this film is finding a smoked joint. Okay, so we needed to make sure that you smoked joint was seen clearly because that's a plot point. So you need to see it. And so I said to Zoran, a very great cinematographer who Rory mentioned.
Who I've worked with as well, actually. Funny
Yeah, he's brilliant. And I said, okay, what we'll do? Can we get 3 shots? Can you film a wide shot of Caroline entering the door, a close up of the cigarette end, and then a medium shot of Caroline holding the cigarette end and doing a line? And Zoran, being a great experienced cinematographer, said, "Well, it would be really cool if I did it in one shot, and I can do it. I can do it with a change of focus, and we can do this nice shot from behind these bottles, and we can do and I can get Caroline come in. I can tilt down onto the cigarette. I can change focus to the cigarette." And as she picks it up, I can follow her hand picking it up, and then I can change the focus from the cigarette to her face for the line. And so rather than 3 shots, we could do it in 1 shot. And it took about 4 goes to get the shot because we had to keep practicing where the focus was. It starts with the focus on the door, then there's a focus on the cigarette, then the focus changes to her face from the cigarette to tell the line.
Show it.
But I'm going to show it. I've just found it. But that was the beauty of Rory and his expertise. I don't know, Zoran and his expertise.
Yeah.
Sort of saying, no, I can do this in 1 shot and it'll look great.
And as you say, the more technical you get, the more precise you get. Sometimes it is harder to get, so it might require a bit more time and precision and organization for that shot.
But also, it saved me a bit of time because in the edit, I only had 1 shot to edit, not 3.
Good point. Good.
So there we go. So this is okay.
They're simple rules.
There you go. Lovely 1 shot. Just following in, changing focus back. Actually changes focus back again when she puts the pig down. So there's actually 4 changes of focus there. The door, the cigarette, Caroline, the little porcelain.
I think that's the thing, isn't it?
It's
the story, and that's
it's all about. Is what I found. I put it on my YouTube channel. There we go. I'll show you a great one. This is my favorite. When a pull focus is when you change the focus of the shot from one thing to another. Okay, so I've got this great one here. This is great for a couple of reasons. One, it's got Arnie in it, but two, it's a great little surprise pull focus, but it also services the story. I'll talk about that after you've seen the shot. So here we go. So let me just share this. Okay. There you go. So there, you've got you don't see Arnie. You don't realize anybody's there because it's out. It's just foliage. Okay, and there's old Action Jackson up there, Carl Weathers, and then you get this really quick pull focus, and so it's not only a really cool shot, but it's also telling you the story in that it's saying these guys are camouflaged, they're hiding, they're difficult to see, and and so because we can't see them, so their enemies can't see them because we didn't notice it was there. So so all these little camera, all these little camera moves, all these little tricks you can do are great, especially if they're not just done for as a gimmick, but they're done to help tell your story. And of course, famous camera shot is a lot of people ask me about is what's called the dolly zoom or the trombone shot or the vertigo shot. Lots of different names for it, which is achieved by either moving the camera forwards on a track and zooming out, or moving the camera backwards and zooming in, which is what they're doing in this case. You can tell which way they're going by if the background gets wider, in which case they're kind of zooming out as they're moving in, so the lens gets wider, or they're actually pulling back and zooming in, what they're doing here, and the background contracts. And it's often used in films to suggest a kind of state of mind. So in this, with the background collapsing, it's like his world is collapsing around him. He's afraid. His son's in the water. He's sat on the beach. He's been nervous, and suddenly all his worst fears come to life, and his whole world is collapsing in around him. Just in that one shot shows you his kind of state of mind. There, it's just a camera moving one way and the lens zooming another. But again, it's a perfect example of what you're doing, helping tell the story. And I bet whoever did that on that day, I bet whoever shot that shot and saw it in the rushes on the film was like going, yeah, there you go. What it worked. It's it probably took a bit of practicing to get the perfect shot. There's probably about 5 or 10 versions of this where like, oh no, it's going backwards too fast, didn't quite get the right zoom, but when you get it, it's lovely, and it tells your story. So yeah, but yeah, so I just wanted to sort of put it out there to anybody out there now who's in the meeting. Okay, if you've got any questions or there's anything you'd like to say, or you've got any ideas yourself for anything you want to make, be it like somebody's planning to do a choir video, any film ideas you've got, any questions about how you might get things made. I'm going to bring Rory in as well if I can, but you need to do that now, Dan, because you're the host.
Right. Well, what if I make you host?
You can make me host again.
Yeah. So we need to. Are you sure I'm not just co-host?
There we go.
I'll make you host.
Okay. Let's have a look. Okay, Stuart Gray. I'm gonna once I'm host again, I'm gonna unmute Stuart so he can ask his question live. Okay, here we go. Stuart Gray. Let me just go and unmute him. Attendees, Stuart Gray. Allowed to talk. Let's promote him to panelist. Might not be able to see him, but we'll definitely be able to hear him. Okay, if you want to unmute yourself, Stuart, and fire away with your question.
Hi, Jason. Can you
Hi,
hear me?
Stuart. You all right?
Yeah, good. Not too bad, mate. Really, really simple one, really. I'm looking to do sort of some little videos for work. You know, what sort of tips would you have when you go to places that you want to capture stuff? What sort of tips would you give us for making sure we get what we want when we go to places?
Okay, so with work videos, I've shot loads of these, and one thing you come across is a lot of people are a bit nervous, often don't want to be filmed, and somebody who's do you have a person in mind who's speaking to camera?
Yeah, the idea being is I work in construction, and the idea being is that I will have my phone with me at all times, but I just want to. Oh, I've just seen something really good. I want to capture some information about that now, such that I can then use that at a later stage. So, you know, I'm looking for tips around what sort of apps to have on your phone, you know, how to make people feel more comfortable, how to make sure that when you get something, you don't come back and think, oh, well, that was a waste of time. I didn't quite get what I was after.
Yeah. So one thing is I found when doing like workplace videos, an example is this guy, he was doing a video where he wanted to promote his recruitment firm. Okay. And I went in there and he got all the lines that he wanted to do written in front of him on like a whiteboard. And he was going to sort of sit in his chair and read this like 2 minutes of stuff. And I said, don't do that. Don't because you'll just look really boring like this guy reading off a whiteboard. All we're going to get you to do is say at the start of the video who you are and like what your company is, so you don't have to read that. And at the end of the video, say like, thank you, and if you want more information, check out our website. And everything else you're going to say, we're just going to record it as sound, and you can just sit there. We're not going to. We'll film you, but we're not going to use the film. We're just going to use the sound from it. And what we're going to do over you speaking is we're going to film lots of cutaway shots, lots of different interesting shots of people at work in your company. And that way, the video wasn't some nervous looking chap sat looking like a deer caught in the headlights reading the script from a whiteboard. It was kind of a friendly chap saying, hello, I'm Dave Smith, head of so-and-so recruitment. And then you hear him chat. You've got lots of pictures of people at his office just typing on things, doing work, whatever, you know, and then cuts back to him at the end and does that. So I always say, get lots of shots, get lots of interesting shots that you can use to edit together, because it's likely that you'll get one person who will be really good at talking to camera for a long period of time, or will be good at kind of following an auto cue or something like that, because that's quite a skilled thing to be able to read from like lines and not look like you're reading. Okay, you think it's easy, then you try it, and it's like you can tell, you know. So that's why newsreaders.
I think what there's a really huge note there about coverage.
Yeah,
just have, you know, there's the old adage of less is more, but I think more is more when it comes to film. Just having backup stuff that you've filmed, loads and loads of stuff, so you can just edit it over or use it as coverage if someone is a bit awkward. Is it called GVs? Is that what GVs?
General views? GVs is short for general views. So you can have GVs. You can have them filmed, and kept in like a library of stuff you're going to use. So for your company, for example, Stuart, you've got film lots of shots of your offices, of you know, of your location. You know, if you work in a building, get a big establishing shot of your building to show where they are. And you might not even use them for one video, but you can keep them on your hard drive because you might use them as to cut to in your other video. So
I think establishing shots are really important as well, just because it's just that setup shot of just the building on the outside.
This is who we are. This is where we are. This is the big overview kind of shot. So definitely get lots of interesting shots, and then you can do your message can either be sort of delivered by a person, but not always on screen, or just get lots of interesting shots and then cut them together to kind of show what you want to show. And then just, like I'm doing now, got a microphone here, just to record a voiceover for it. Just cut your stuff together and then put a voiceover over it. And yeah, so definitely you'll never go wrong with getting lots of good shots.
One final tip is that some people freeze as soon as you sort of go action.
Yes.
And they can get really, really nervous. Whereas if you just go, we're just going to do a rehearsal, and they don't, and then film that. Don't tell them you're filming it.
Yeah.
Just do a rehearsal. We're just going to do a rehearsal. Just tell us what you would say, and then you film that. And more often than not, if there's somebody who are sort of new to film and they get a bit angsty when the camera's rolling, you're going to get a better take.
I do that all the time. I usually set the camera off recording and then like have a little chat to them and say, oh, we're just going to film you an interview. Going to say this. Don't worry if you get it wrong. We can cut it out. You can do it again. No pressure. Because as soon as sometimes you call action, people will be like a deer caught in the headlights and freeze up. But if it's just a continuation of having a chat, and the nice thing about digital now is that you can just delete the clips that you don't use, and when you've got all your clips on you can reformat. You used to have to be conscious of saving tape or saving film stock because you didn't run out. But now you can film extra, so you don't have to worry about filming too much. So you can run the camera before and just let it roll, and then just ease into a conversation rather than go, right, we're going to start filming now and action, and suddenly the person goes really pressure.
So just one little supplementary to that then, Jason.
Yeah.
Working on the assumption that the best camera to have is the one you've got in your hand.
Yeah.
And bear in mind we've all got mobile phones. Do you feel that the basic simple apps that come with Android or iOS are perfectly sufficient, or would you promote getting different apps to make sure you've got something a little bit better there?
Most of the time the basic apps are great, but the thing is, you can also a lot of people don't know some of the functionality of their phones. For example, like how you can lock the focus by just holding down with your finger for a couple of seconds, so that if you're filming a person sat in a chair, so for example, if you're going to be doing that, you probably want to get something like this, which is a little tripod, costs about £5. Okay. And then I can put my phone in there. Okay. And I can then, and then I can have that filming while, and then I can be sat here talking to them, and they could be looking at me, so they're not looking straight down the lens of the phone, which you'd probably get if you were doing that all the time. And I've got a steady, and I don't have to worry about my arms getting tired in my shot going all wobbly. So little things like just a little cheap £5 phone tripod can make all the difference, and
I got this one for 20 quid, but it comes with a little remote control.
Yes, you can get little Bluetooth remotes.
Yeah.
And then you can just be sat there with your tripod to your side, and you can just click on your little Bluetooth remote to start and stop. So if you're gonna, a little gadget, something like a little support for your phone, will make a huge difference, and that way you can concentrate on getting the best out of the person rather than constantly having to fiddle about with the phone. And if it's steady and in the right place, and you set the phone up, the person sat there, you kind of press and hold with your finger. I've got some videos on my YouTube channel about how to sort of focus and change the light on the phone and stuff like that with your finger. Then you can just do that, and your phone, your shot's locked, so you don't have to worry about the shot anymore. You just let it roll, and you can concentrate on getting the best out of the person, and they'll be less sort of less terrified of the camera as well, because they'll kind of forget it's there. And they'll be more concentrating on you because you've kind of forgotten about it too. So yeah. So you can get apps that let you sort of do things on the phone, like customize the white balance and things like that, which will change the colors of the shot, and you can do things where you can change, for example, things about the sound levels you're recording and stuff. But the actual kind of built-in apps that come with the phone are pretty good already. Okay, so there's like Cinematograph Pro and stuff like that. I think they cost about $7.99. They may be worth trying out if you find that you're not getting the results you want, but you probably will get the results you want for the kind of stuff you're making. Just by setting things up well, filming things nicely on a tripod rather than handheld for interviews. And as I say, having a variety of shots that you can cut to make your video more interesting, not just one shot, will really help. I'm gonna bring Rory in as. There we go. I'm gonna bring Rory in as well.
Tim has asked a question in the chat, Jace.
He's got anything to add to that? Yes, I have an idea for the start of a movie and an overarching basic concept. Rory's a good one to answer this question. How do I go about finding people a partner or a number of partners?
For what purpose?
He's got a concept for a film which he'd like to develop. So
are we talking about producers or
writing partners.
Kind of writing partners.
Now that is actually harder. Okay. Why am I not allowed to have a picture? Possibly because it's well after midnight.
Let me try. I'm going to make you host.
Make him host. Make him host.
There we go.
I don't know if
you might disappear, Dan, but I'm making him host. But hopefully not.
I think I'm still here.
I think you'll stay.
I can answer. Speaking as a part of a writing partnership.
I was about to say, Dan will be good to talk about working with other writers, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah. I've written solo stuff. I've written as a group of 3, and I've written as a writing partnership. And I've written in bad writing partnerships. Bad in the sense that it wasn't as fun as it should have been. So I wrote some stuff for radio with a guy who's a really, really good friend, but we got stuff on radio, but the process wasn't as enjoyable as it should have been. So we just realized that our friendship was more important than us screaming at each other and drinking far too much Coca-Cola and eating too many cookies and getting sugar rushes. So I think it's finding someone that you can write with that is enjoyable and makes the process enjoyable, because writing a feature will take a long time. I think that a test would be maybe just write a short film with someone and see if you like writing with them before you embark on writing a feature, and finding that you're a month in and you've written 20 pages, but you hate it and you hate that person. So I would, maybe just write a short film or some comedy sketches with someone.
Rory's here.
Hello, there he is. Cheers.
All the way from Japan. All the way from Japan. Kanpai.
We're crossing continents here. Cheers.
Oh, I've got some weird light on here.
So I'd say, Tim, it's about finding that right person, and that can be trial and error. I've been sort of fortunate with the third person I've been as a writing pair to actually have a really enjoyable experience writing with him, and I've just written my first feature with him and done rewrites and submitted that to a competition. But also, if it's a great idea and you love it, maybe just write it yourself and see. But do you really need someone to write it with, Tim?
The question is the search for an extra writer merely procrastination?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I think it's about lacking confidence in yourself. So many writers I know, professional writers, they say a lot of the time they get approached by people who say, I've got a great idea, would you write it for me? Now, these are professional writers, this is their job. Yes, they will, if you pay them a lot of money. What you want is someone who has the same passion and the same interest in the idea as you do. And if there isn't anyone else who does, it's got to be you. Now, you could say you don't know the finesse of screenwriting, the good dialogue. The most important thing you can do, the most important 2 words you can write in your script are the end. Doesn't matter what is written from the beginning to the end. Get it written. It can be garbage, but write it all down. Get something written, even if it's just starts with a synopsis. Then it moves on to the whole story. Then you go by scene by scene by scene. You don't have to write it perfectly formatted script with dialogue. Just know what is in which scene. And by the end of that, you've got the whole story. You know how the characters are going to develop. You know how the plotting works, and you've written the end. I have written endless short films. I have never completed a feature script because I do exactly that. I start at the beginning and I try to get it perfect. And that's my way of procrastinating and not finishing. So I'm always telling all my students here and back in London, do as I say, not as I do. Get the words "the end" written. Then you can go back, perfect it, make it better, work on it. And if you're really worried about dialogue, if you're really worried about 3-act structure and all that stuff, go and read a book, go and do a quick class at Raindance, get that in your head, then go back to your script with the ideas that has awakened in you on structure or dialogue. Get back into the story, but get your story written first. And this idea that there's someone out there who's going to do it for you, yes, they will, if you pay them a lot of money. Or you have to meet people who you can fire up and excite about your story in the same way that you're excited by it. That's going to be a lot harder.
My question for Tim would be, is it comedy? It is, because I know Tim knows a lot about comedy and knows a lot of comedians. And I would say, Tim, if this is a comedy, then yes, write with someone else, because if you're writing comedy on your own, sometimes you can think this is the most hilarious joke I've ever written in my life, because I know I've done it myself. And then you try it on someone else and they go,
it's some of yours.
Exactly. Thank you, Rory. I
can bring Tim in and let me just, Rory, can you make me host again? You'll stay on. No, you just go into onto my click on me. Click on my name.
And then make host.
There you go. And you can, if I do that backwards, you see, now I can bring in Tim.
Oh, I don't disappear. Oh, that's nice.
And allowed to talk. There we go. So there's Tim. Tim, you can chat now.
Good morning, everyone. Or good evening.
Hi, Tim.
Wherever we are in the world. Hello.
Hello.
The idea is that it's I guess it's a black comedy, I suppose. It definitely has it's sort of a cross between a thriller and a comedy. So it's not an out and out comedy. In fact, if anything, it's more a thriller buddy movie.
What is the sticking point? What is the thing that is stopping you putting pen to paper? Or
it may be procrastination. It's actually the plot. It's some of the plot stuff. I have an overarching arc that I feel very confident with. I've written like some of the start scenes, really like it, really. But it's that bit where you get into the middle of the movie and it's like, shit, how do I get them from here to here? And they're in my head. There is that bit, and I think you're exactly right there. I think it's a confidence thing on my part, both confidence and procrastination. A bit where I go, well, if I had a more experienced writer who'd been through that process before, they might be able to help me navigate that thing. But you might be right. Maybe I just need to have a crack at it myself and then see.
There's a very old-fashioned style, pre-computer style of writing.
The flow chart.
Get a post-it note stack. The scenes you know, write them down, number them, and write them down. What's in the scene? Bob goes to the gym. Bob eats some crisps. Whatever it is, write the basic scenes down. Stick them on the wall. Put them in the order that you think they're in, and look at the gaps between them. And think, okay, what goes in those gaps? It'll just give you and I'm sure there's ways you can do it on the computer, but I think just this visual of having a wall of post-it notes with the scenes you know, the actual story you've got, and then seeing where the gaps are will give you a much better visual idea of, okay, they're the gaps I've got to fill. How do I get from A to B? You've got it all in front of you, and you know where those gaps are.
I think that's a really, really good idea, and a lot of writers use that. Also, other writers, you don't necessarily have to write A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You could write the scenes you already know. So write the scenes you've absolutely clear in your head, just get them down. You don't have to write the whole screenplay in chronological order. You just get those scenes down, and the picture builds like a sort of jigsaw. And then you go, oh, actually, that scene I just wrote there might give the solution to the problem I had before. So if you've got not all the pieces together, as Roy says, map it all out and write the scenes and then something.
Yeah.
Might
Or you have it like as a flow chart with all the scenes you've got, and you suddenly think, well, actually, there's Bob in the library with a smoking gun, but I've only got previously Bob in a gym with working out. How do I get Bob to the library? What do I need to, what kind of route do I need in the film to link these two together? So you start to sort of, you plot it out like a graph or a flowchart and see where the gaps are in your film. So think
Something
of it
else, because I come from an acting background like Dan, and another good way I find is when I'm writing, so long as I know who the characters are, I find that the characters take me where they need to go. So if you have a good sense of your characters, write little stories for them, write ideas, then when you're looking at how Bob gets from A to C, you think about who he is, what is he going to do in his life, how would he react, and that gives you B. That gives you B, simply by the character. Not thinking about any visuals or story, but what would the character do, and then you suddenly got that scene that can fill in the middle.
Yeah, I think that's a really lovely note. I think that
it's brilliant. Thank you, guys. That's really genuinely helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I also say, Tim,
Dan a monthly, and he'll write it for you.
Yeah, and obviously, Tim, you know us, so yeah, ask us what we think and if we can help. Use everybody. If you know somebody, use them all the time. Dan does.
Hemingway quote. There's a great Hemingway quote of I know it might not be. Oh, was it right? No, he said write drunk, edit sober. But someone else said throw up in the morning, clear up in the afternoon, which is basically just allow it all to pour out and then edit it later. So
well, is it Stephen King who said write your first draft, stick it on the shelf for a couple of months, then come back to it and read it with fresh eyes, and then start tidying it all up. But the most important thing is to just, get it all out there. Yeah. But yeah,
good luck.
Thank you, guys. Thanks a
lot.
Stuart Gray says Microsoft Whiteboard and Micro are great cross-platforms for electronic post-it notes mapping.
Right.
So there you go.
I'm old-fashioned. I'm old and I'm old-fashioned. I like physical media, things stuck to walls. But if you like guys who know computers can do that sort of thing with you, more power to you. Get that done.
A lot of people use those the cards, what they're called, rather than post-its.
Rolodex kind of.
Yeah, those little file cards.
It's like sticking things to walls.
Yeah, it makes you look.
I don't know what you do in your spare time, Rory.
Makes you look busy. There you go. Okay. Anybody else got any questions?
Well, Stuart's just come up. What does that say?
Stuart's just saying Microsoft Whiteboard.
Miro.
Good mapping, and in the COVID world, when we can't all get people together,
No,
then obviously we've got this. We've got Zoom and things.
Yeah, well, Dan was making his Henry Hoover things. Now, my Marai, who teaches acting for me here in Tokyo, she actually joined we had a state of emergency here. We never had a lockdown. I'm sorry to show off, but I can go out. It's amazing. I can go to the shops. I've got one up on the world. This is how we show off these days. But anyway, but Marai joined the state of emergency here. She actually, with some of our acting students here, but also actors she knew in LA, in London, in Australia, she wrote a script for them to improvise around called Interlocked, which was all them. It was a conspiracy theory based idea. And these people all in lockdown at home, and the actors recorded themselves on their Zoom or on their webcam or on their phone. They recorded a sort of semi-improvised dialogue based around her script, sent them to Marai every week. She edited them into half-hour episodes. She ended up with, she did 12 episodes. So that's like 6-hour online drama called Interlocked. Please do look it up. And that was something all done. And as things opened, so when our state of emergency ended here at the end of May, people in Tokyo started to be able to film out on the street and add an extra dimension, while people in Berlin were still in lockdown and so on. So it was a really nice way, and this real international production, all done in people's homes, half-hour week. Really, you know, she did a really amazing job with that. So there's I think challenges are a way you raise your game to challenges. They don't stop.
Is that Zoran, who was on The Landlady, the cinematographer we talked about, who did the lovely pulled
I
off.
actually use that shot when I'm teaching here.
Yeah, me too. I use it for teaching.
Tell people how listen to your crew, because they know more about their job.
Yeah. And but Zoran's catchphrase was, I used to sort of say to him, what I used to do for shots was I used to use my iPad a lot, and I'd go around the location and I'd take a still on my iPad, thinking, oh, that's like a nice angle to shoot up the stairs. So I'd take a shot of it, and then I'd say to Zoran, the cinematographer, you know, it's a bit of a tight gap, but do you think we could get this shot like looking up the stairs? And Zoran would always say, there were no problems, only challenges.
Yes.
So
well, my favorite thing is there used to be a book that was produced. It was edited by John Borman, I think, every year in England, called Projections. And they did 13 volumes. I've got them all in a box in England. I've got to ship everything over at some point. And there was one edition where they sent a questionnaire to about 200 filmmakers all around the world with a few questions for them to answer. And they published most of the answers. And one of the questions was, if you had infinite time and infinite money, what film would you make? And at least half of the filmmakers replied, I don't want it. I make the restrictions make my film. Actually, what I can work with, the locations I have, the money I have, the actors I have, the idea, these are where my ideas come from. If you're told you can make anything, I think the vast majority of screenwriters, the vast majority of directors would just sit there going, oh God, I don't know. Yeah. I certainly would. I mean, there definitely are some who would go, I'm George Lucas and I want to make this. But most people would be totally thrown by it. Restrictions help you. They really
classic example of that is Jaws.
Oh, the shark.
They couldn't get the shark to work. Yeah. If they had got the shark to work, it might have been like a 70s version of Deep Blue Sea. Lots of shark action, but because the shark didn't work, it was all about the characters, and the music became the shark, and the fact that we couldn't really see the shark for most of the film added to the tension, and they did all the shots where we saw, so we didn't see the shark, but we saw things from the shark's point of view with the camera swimming through people's legs underwater, and so it's an infinitely better film because of the constraints on the film. And so you're often having to work within limitations. If you could just do everything, it's often like, you know, Ridley Scott, you know, if you compare Alien to like Prometheus, like Alien's a classic, hated Prometheus, but
I haven't got past the first 15 minutes. I'm sorry, so I can't criticize it. I don't criticize a film I haven't seen, but I can't get.
But he's clearly reached that stage in his directorial career where he can probably just do anything he likes. Nobody will say to him, actually, Ridley, that doesn't make sense. So that's the, you know, and he's got a far bigger budget and stuff like that. But having to improvise and work around constraints gave that amazing kind of film.
There's much tighter together than that. If you think about Lord of the Rings, now, okay, that was huge films, but it was three massive films made for 100 million. There's a lot of money, but that's 3 blockbusters for 100 million. And it was a project of love. And he put in time and money. And then 10 years later, he had to make The Hobbit. He didn't want to. But he had all the money in the world, and he just spent his time playing, using 48 frames a second and doing all the
nobody
CGI.
liked.
And they are dull films with no character and nothing to like. And and he had all the money in the world to make those because Lord of the Rings had been such a huge hit.
Yeah.
So restrictions, even at that level, and Lord of the Rings is obviously a big film, but it was still restricted for what they were trying to do with the money. And those restrictions helped it because you had to
come back to the script and the story there. You can go back to the script and the story because Lord of the Rings is 1,200 pages and The Hobbit is only about 300.
Yeah, I mean, with Lord of the Rings, they were pretty much having to condense the book. With Hobbit, they just stretched it out to make more money.
And I think this harms some filmmakers now in that they their favorite films are big blockbuster movies, and they look at those and think, oh, I want to do this with special effects and camera moves. 70% of almost any film, Lord of the Rings, Godfather, whatever, 70, 80% is two people talking to each other. If you can get two people talking to each other working, everything else is gravy on top of that. That's the basics of your filmmaking. And two people talking to each other is script and character. And why have I got those lines of light? I've got these. This is my terrible studio practical lights, which I hate. It's directly above my.
They're quite effective.
Yeah.
There we go. I'm going. They've gone now. I'm backlit now. That's even worse.
Yeah.
Right. There. Oh, I'm going
right.
now.
Anybody else like to say anything or got any questions? I can unmute people, or you can stick a question.
Yeah, I do apologise that we're just three middle-aged men who haven't seen each other for a while having a chat now.
Yeah. But it was always an informal webinar. We just wanted to answer people's questions and try and give some inspiration. But yeah, anybody, we're going to wrap things up in about 5 minutes anyway. But just any thoughts, any ideas, any inspiration, any technical questions, anything anybody would like to put out there, hit us up.
Oh, thanks, Stuart. Stuart said he thinks it's great, and you are great, Jace. You're absolutely great. Well done.
Oh, thank you, Stuart. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, like I said, I didn't want to make this especially a technical thing. I just wanted to make this a sort of thing that give you like the inspiration to sort of say, yeah, I could do this. As it is called, anyone can make a film.
They use the technical side as an excuse not to make films.
That's what I said earlier.
Get out of the script. We're on a set and we've got a shot planned. We'll work out how to solve that problem either in pre-production or on the set. But get into pre-production, get to that stage before you start thinking about how are we going to do that shot? How are we going to sort that out? And you'll find a way. Absolutely find a way. Otherwise, you'll just keep putting it off, thinking, I've got to find someone who can do this. Just don't. Just. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what I'm saying anymore.
Stuart Gray said, are you guys contemplating a 3 middle-aged blokes rambling about films YouTube channel?
There we go.
We could do that.
We could do that. We could talk all night.
That's really popular at the moment.
Yeah. We could get a pipe, perhaps, and some nice background music, some lounge music, perhaps, playing in the background. Whiskey. Okay. Back in my day, we shot on DV cameras. Yes. None of this phone stuff.
Sometimes when I talk about my students here, and I'm very mixed, so I have international, I have Japanese students, but obviously they're 95% of them are younger than me. And I do suddenly feel I have to start explaining to them. I shot this film on 35mm. Now, film is something we used to use. And they say, a VHS we used to, and now I have to explain DVDs as everyone's streaming, except in Japan where actually DVDs are still hugely popular, thankfully, for a collector like me. But we suddenly feel we have to start explaining all these old ways we made film.
I remember when the first things I used to edit back at university was shot on VHS. So we had these massive cameras, and me and my friends, we had one of the few people that used the AV department. So we ran a film club, and we made films and music videos and stuff like that, which filmed all these big things that we take to gigs and stuff like that. We made this whole documentary about my band called In Bed with the Banana, because In Bed with Madonna was out at the time, and our band was called Bananas in Transit, and it's on YouTube, the whole documentary, and an hour.
Sorry, you must have. I've been drinking. There was some comedian on a TV show called In Bed with Medina, which I thought was
there was.
The best gag in the
before
show,
that, we were pre that, but back then you had to edit, and you get 2 VHS tapes in a big clunky old machine with these big dials, and you'd have to kind of rewind them and try to find, and then you put a 3rd VHS tape in the middle, and then then these machines would wind back to, and then they'd speed up, get to speed, and then at a certain point the middle tape would hit in, and because it was mechanical, not digital, sometimes it wouldn't get it quite right, and you'd have to go back and do it again to make sure you got cut where it's supposed to cut, and it took forever. But it was still great fun. Still,
well, because Jason, I mean, I asked you. I put a lot of my films on YouTube a little while ago, which you helped me with, being technically inept as far as the internet's concerned. And I wanted to find the old film with Sylvester McCoy shot in the Outer Hebrides, and the quality that we had was terrible. And I suddenly realised, I think the master is literally a Betacam master tape in storage somewhere in Peterborough. So if I ever actually want to make a good-looking version of that film online, I'm going to have to go in, find a Betacam master tape, find somewhere that can play and convert and digitize a Betacam master tape before I can put it on YouTube. But that's a terrifying thought, that all our formats are so outdated now. And I think there's a lot of lost films out there which probably do exist on formats, which no one's prepared
Tapes
to
in the attic and everything.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a podcast, isn't it, or a film cast? The Lost
The Lost Film Podcast,
Yeah,
finding
well,
lost
there are
films.
great lost film enthusiasts who are constantly finding things now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, here in Japan, because of the Kanto earthquake in 23 and then the Tokyo firebombing in 45, the rest of the world has lost 95% of its silent movies. We've lost 99%. There's infinitesimal number of Japanese pre-war movies, and they still turn up. So there's hope for all of us that things will come to light. That's not what we're about. People want to know how to make films.
Right. Well, unless anybody's got any more questions, I'm going to wrap things up. Any last questions? I said, if people have got any specific like techie questions about things like cameras or lights or software, I've put my email in the chat, jason@mac.com. There you go. So if you want to email me any particular questions about, what's a good camera, lighting questions, lighting's pretty cheap now, what software to use, all that kind of stuff, feel free to do so. But yeah, I've really enjoyed this. So if people enjoyed it, maybe we'll do some more on different subjects. We can talk about all kinds of things, organize some webinars. So who knows? There may be more.
Well, yeah, maybe
any topics.
Sorry.
What?
If people out there have got any topics they'd like to...
Yeah, again, if there are any topics you want covering, or anybody's got any ideas for webinars,
the three middle-aged men rambling for 2 hours, we're happy to do that.
Happy to do that. Okay, so okay, David. David. Yes, that was great, inspiring. So great, we've inspired David. So
inspiring.
So yeah, I hope to see all your films soon. Okay, so.
We could say, we'll do this again in a month, and let's see the films you've
made.
Your
films. Okay. I'm gonna give you a challenge. Halloween's coming up. You saw earlier. I'm gonna leave you on this. I'm gonna leave you with one of Dan's that I made with Dan. Here we go. Just for inspiration. Again, you saw Claw earlier, and that was one of the 14-second horror films. So here we go. So this is another one that was made very quickly in my downstairs room in the flat I used to live. Another 14-second horror film. Again, it's just about having an idea. And this one is called Ouija.
Are we saying goodbye before this?
Oh, no, I'll play it and then say goodbye. Here we go.
Are you behind me?
That was Dan's landlord coming for the rent.
Indeed,
it was actually Rory.
Wasn't me. I wasn't there. Who was it? Who was it? It was under the sheet.
We've got to thank some Byron. So I'd love to see it if anybody on here could make a short, really short, just make it in your back garden, in your attic, wherever you want to make it, some sort of spooky movie for Halloween. It could be 14 seconds, 14 minutes, whatever you like long. There's your challenge. Go and do it. Go and do it.
Spooky
Just
short
do it.
challenge.
Just spooky short challenge. Just do it. We'll
You've got
stick it
your
on my
camera in
YouTube.
your pocket, you've got your microphone in your
You've got
pocket.
everything you need. You've got a camera.
It's either you or anyone else living in your house.
There's loads of sound effects you can download. I can send you a link to where to get lots of sound effects and free music. I can tell you where you can get music from.
Look around the room now. You will see something in your room which you could put in a horror film.
Ah!
Right, the Teddy of Death.
Teddy of Death. There you go. All right, folks. It's been a pleasure having you, and I hope to see you, and I hope to do another one. So thank you very much. And there we are. This now ends the webinar. So Zoom buys. Oh, we say bye about 20 times. Bye, bye, bye. I'm going to press the button now. I'm going to do. Yeah, I'm going to end the meeting now. Bye.